Hello, hello. This is the Union Tapes, episode number 27. So BMX Action Bike was the magazine back in the 80s, was the real BMX Bible for all of us kids who came through. It set a standard for UK BMX mags in general in its approach to covering BMX and the many themes that grew out of it. So this is with a guy called Tim Leighton Boyce, otherwise known as TLB, who is an infamous photographer for that magazine and also went on later to be one of the editors. And we talk about all sorts of iconic photo shoots in this one. We cover Dark Side of the Bowl with Craig Campbell, the Livingston skate park, Eddie Fiola and Mike Dominguez story, which was a huge deal back then. And also we go further back into how Tim got into photography and his love for skateboarding, which later on led to him taking the photos for the BMX mags. So yeah, we get into all of it here. Mons jams, the decline of BMX, the explosion of skateboarding and vice versa, and how much those things mirror each other. What happened after Read and Destroy, working with Nick Phillip, working with Dave Curry. There's a lot of stuff in here and it's all, for me, this is really interesting and I hope you like it too. So get it down, yeah.
Well, one of the things that we ought to cover off perhaps right at the beginning is that my memory for this period is getting very, very unreliable. There are huge gaps.
No worries.
You sent me through some pictures of things you wanted to talk about, and I'm looking at it and thinking, I haven't got a clue. So my memory fades. And it's different from BMX to skateboarding, because skateboarding, although I effectively dropped out of that in 1993, because of this book project that's been going on for 20 years now, I've been looking at pictures and talking to people about them quite a lot over the years. So I remember more about that. It's been kept active, whereas the BMX stuff largely has been left untalked about until the last year or so. Some of it's gone, I think.
No worries. Well,
let's find out.
We can we can. I'm sure we can piece it together with other people's information that I've discovered so far, and hopefully you'll realise that some of it you can tap into, and some of it's long gone. But yeah, okay. Well, I'm good to go then if you are. So, as you were saying, you were born in South London and raised in South London.
Yep,
okay.
Indeed. And so very much a son of the suburbs.
All right.
That was my life, suburbs.
Okay. And that's where you went to school in London and you did it.
Yeah,
that's it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But having said that, one of the things I'd like to make, the point I'd make about it is I was well aware of the risk that we were seeing, that everything I was doing was seen as very London-centric. So I tried, if anything, to overcompensate for that. We spent insane amounts of money on petrol, an insane amount of time driving up and down the roadways and the motorways of mostly England, to my shame. The Scottish trips were a bit limited in those days. And we went to Northern Ireland precisely once. But England and Wales, and mostly England, to be frank.
Yeah,
but not stopping at the north, at the Watford Gap. Up and down the A1 in particular, a lot on the M6. Yeah,
that is actually one of my questions later on.
Okay.
How did you travel so often and you seemed everywhere? But let me just go back a little bit. So, when you was a child, like, what was your general interest when you was growing up, like in your teen years and stuff?
Oh well, the thing that's relevant to this actually is pre-teens. There are two things that strike me as relevant to that. One is that my next door neighbour gave me a camera when I was 5, on my 5th birthday. And that's when I started getting into photography, though my father had been into photography and his father before him had been into photography.
All right.
So the photography actually started when I was 5. And the other thing is that I had this 20-inch wheeled bike, not a BMX bike, and down the end of the road was Streatham Common, which is a land full of bumps and jumps and things. And I liked I like jumping off things on my bike and skidding around on my bike with my mate Ian Bradford. And so that's what I was doing at the age of 8 or 9. So there's a precedent.
Amazing. Yeah, that was the start, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Getting right in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. Chess's track, all that stuff. I was doing that without the course bike. And not so much as a length of ply leant up against anything. At least not as far as I can remember. But the other thing is, so fast forward to the teen years, 15, 16, and what I was doing then was doing my earnest angst-ridden teenager stuff, taking gritty black and white photographs of people living rough on the South Bank. So I was a habitué of the South Bank and all the up bits, which were closed off at times by the time that the biking and skating happened. But I was taking pictures of the South Bank back in my teen years. So.
Oh, no way. So what year would this have been? Was this pre-skateboarding, I take it?
Yeah, pre-skateboarding.
Oh, okay.
Late 60s, early 70s.
All right. Wow, you already knew of South Bank, and there was already homeless people there. That's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
They was already gathered up. So you're into photography already. That was one of my questions as well. So how did you discover skateboarding?
Oh, right. That was when I was at university. I was at university in Exeter, there's two things going for it. A lot of hills on the campus. It was a campus university with lots of hills, and also quite a hefty surfing contingent. So when skateboarding in the second phase in America, the first real boom here, the one that was in the 70s, I was at university. A lot of friends got into skateboarding and got, clay wheel stuff, all that. And they would go skating on the campus and basically you were rad if you could get down the hill and round the corner at the bottom on these clay wheels. I wasn't particularly into it, to be honest, but it was okay. And then one of the other things that was relevant is that quite a few of them were for London. So we used to, in the vacation, be up in London, up all night, 1 o'clock in the morning, let's go skate. And everyone would go down to South Bank. And by that point, that's when I first pointed a camera at people skating, as far as I know. I've got photographs of some of my mates from that era skating at the South Bank during the 70s skateboard boom. And
clay wheel era?
No, this is
moved on a little bit.
Yeah, they started on clay wheels, and they were on urethane wheels by sort of, when would it be, 76, 77, around there. All right. So that was one of the great revolution in skateboarding, to be honest, with urethane wheel, I suspect. Right. So that's when I first pointed pictures at a load of stoned 20-something people sticking around on skateboards. And by the way, the point here about that is we were too old. Most skaters in those days would be teens, and it was a teenage thing. And people like us were regarded as weird oldie people to some extent. Yeah. Which is another reason why it happened in the middle of the night. I think most of us would have felt a bit self-conscious skating during the day.
So you was already part of the dispossessed an early part of life, right? Because this is what happened to us as well when we were kids. It was looked at as childish to do skateboard and BMX. So it was looked at as childish from that early. Yeah. I suppose back then people...
Ironic now, isn't it, when you look at it? There's all these 14, 50-year-olds getting around.
Totally. Yeah. It's insane. So when you were taking photos of like the homeless people and that, where did that like viewpoint come from? Like why was you actually taking photos of the homeless guys? Like that was social commentary or something?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd have been exposed to photographers like Walker Evans, I suppose. People photographing, it's social commentary. And I'm a white middle class kid who is possibly doesn't know what the hell they are sort of photographing in one sense. So, my interesting or concerns about homeless people remain. I've been walked on pilgrimages a couple of times for the connection at St Martin's in the Field. I still have a direct debit that goes out to them. All this.
Oh, really?
God knows how long. Yeah. Homelessness is one of the things I am sort of concerned by. Yes, but not. Cool, man. I'm not trying to big that up. But I mean, that's a consistent thing.
All good, man. No problem. So going back again, like going forward a little bit. So in '76, when you're starting to take photos of the skateboarders at South Bank, when was that explosion? Like, was that the year '76?
Gosh, this is where I should know this really well because this is my subject. I'd say the peak year was probably 77, 76 and 77. Yeah. That's when you'll have things like the nationwide, TV program doing skate. Yeah, all that stuff. That was probably 77, might have been 76. Yeah, so that's when I was doing it, and I didn't say skateboarders in general because I would have been scared to. No, it was just taking pictures of my mates who were skateboarding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then like this. So what's the path into like taking the pictures of the actual skateboarders when the skate parks are coming and stuff like that?
Okay. After that is I graduated and was back in London and somebody nicked my car. So I got the insurance money, which was not very much. And so I decided finally, to the great delight of my parents, no doubt, I'd have to get a job. So there was this job in the advertised in the Evening Standard, which has just closed, which was, what was it, graduates looking for sort of fun employment or something like that. So I thought, I don't know what that is, but I'll apply. So I applied. And what it turned out to be was working in a skateboard shop, which had this policy. What they did was they recruited people who would, to some extent, be quite overqualified because, they could trust them to get on and just do anything and everything. Bearing in mind that back in those days, not everybody at all went to university. The attendance rates were much, much smaller. So graduate, requiring graduate degree for a shop assistant, what the hell? But it was a very interesting and enlightened policy in a way because it was just saying, get people that you can just let loose to do stuff, which is what I did ultimately with them. So I got this job. I was working in a skateboard shop, which was just the most fun ever.
What skateboard shop was it?
It was called Alpine Sports, and it was opposite Harrods. It was opposite Harrods, for God's sake. And it has 4 floors, of which only one was the actual shop floor with a ramp out the back. But the basement was absolutely full of stock, more stock than the average wholesaler would carry, I suspect. And then there was 2 floors of offices above it, or 1 floor of offices and then a flat. Anyway, just the nicest group of people, most fun to work with. Slap bang in the middle of London. Some very good pubs around the place. Just so cool and fun working there. And of course, finally got the money from the insurance for the car. And I thought, I'll go and buy some camera equipment. So I went down to Vic Oddin's camera shop in London Bridge Walk, which was the progenitor and mentor for Richer Sounds.
That's it. Yeah.
They came out of that school. Anyway, so I got my first Canon camera from there. I'd had Pentaxes before then. Got the Canon, and the very first thing I did on my way from the shop was I went to the South Bank and just did experimenting. I was shooting pictures off the top of one of the walkways onto the big banks of people skating. So I was, because the difference here is I'd now got very comfortable around hanging around with skaters. So, lots of interesting people used to come and hang out in Alpine. Alpine was not regarded in total esteem then because it was the big bad Tesco's of skateboarding in a way, Death Star in a way. But nevertheless, it was a good place to hang out because it was right in the middle of Knightsbridge.
There, right?
Yeah. And we were running a sort of the type of fun shop that we always did. And so we're not going to throw anybody out. They can just hang around as long as they want, you know. Interesting things happen, like Paul McCartney turned up to have his photograph taken next door. I mean, it's all happening. You're in Knightsbridge, for this sake. Yeah. I mean, I know the bloke who ran the advert, and you're still in contact with him. But what that was they were actually replacing the existing staff. So they had all these, they'd gone through a phase of having all these ne'er-do-well skaters behind the counter who were possibly favouring the 100% discount various people and so on. So they decided enough of this, we're going to go to the policy that we used for their ski shops and their mountaineering shops and things, of getting in the graduates and get rid of that lot and replace them all. I didn't realise that at the time. Didn't replace all of them. For example, Bradley Vine was a named skater at that time. He carried on working. There were a few people who carried on. It wasn't like a complete swap from skaters to clueless people interested in skating.
Yeah. What was there other Alpine Actions at that time, or was that Alpine Sports? Sorry.
This is Alpine Sports. Alpine Sports had a whole series of shops in London, and also Brighton, Leeds, Edinburgh. Leeds and Edinburgh had different names, but were owned by them. I don't think they had a Manchester shop at that point. So they had a chain. They were a big sort of skiing shop originally.
The skiing shop. That's what I thought.
Skiing shop originally. That's what the original owners were into, and also mountaineering. And they had got into skateboarding right at the start of the boom. And I mean, it just went crazy. So they were running, in Skateboard Mag, they were running 16 pages of colour advertising, like a catalogue. Wow. I mean, it was just phenomenal. We came in on the end of that, as it turns out, just after skateboarding had crashed. But nobody knew that when they were recruiting those people.
Yeah, no, of course not. So, and so you're taking photos of the skate boom, right?
The tail end of it, as it turned out, yeah.
The tail end of it, okay. Yeah, so you only got your camera gear at the tail end?
Well, the Canon stuff that I used, yeah, and the Vivitar flashes in those days. I mean, the key point then is there was this interesting little crew of people like Jeremy Henderson, Neil Harding, Roger Harvey, Brad Vine, Jay Gayton. There's a whole load of skaters who effectively adopted me as their pet photographer. And we used to run these slideshows in the guy who ran Harrow Skate Park in his flat. We'd go around there, have slideshows, and so I could see how people reacted to the pictures and which ones they thought were really good and which weren't. So they taught me to take photographs of skateboarding.
So you wasn't getting pictures published at this point?
No, that came via a shop called Tradewinds, ironically, not Alpine at all. Some of those people like Brad Vine were skating for this really cool shop down in Fulham called Tradewinds, who started producing their own boards and ran a team and did all these things. They were really nice, fun people. And they were going over to a skate competition in Paris. And somebody came up with the idea, why don't you take Tim along? So I went along on this trip, which was a real baptism of fire, skate travel, skaters on tour, my first experience of that. And one of the worst, gnarliest one. I won't go into the details of that one, but it's pretty wild. And I gave them the pictures. They took them round to Skateboard magazine and showed them to Bruce Sawford, who was the editor. And I've often told this tale. He phoned me up and he said, first words were, "Where have you been all my life?" And it was just such an amazing, stoke. He was so into the pictures. So he then commissioned me to take more pictures. So he'd say, he taught me a lot. He was the person who was saying to me, right, everybody shoots lots of colour, but actually half the magazine's black and white. So you've got to shoot just as much black and white as you do colour. And I want to have a spread of pictures, not just the hot tricks and things. I want all the overviews, the background scenes, what's going on, what the skate park or the ramp looks like, all of that stuff. Don't forget to include that. So he taught me all that. And then he taught me the business side. He said, basically, and this is what you do. You put a bit of paper into a typewriter. He said, typed out the word invoice. And he said, and agreed fee day rate of something like £75, which in those days
was good then, yeah.
Whoa! I was still,
yeah.
This is all right. Plus the expenses, what you paid for the film and all that. I really respected him. I mean, he taught me the ropes of that.
So he had a good vision.
And just as years later, Richard Grant and Nigel Thomas taught me an immense amount about producing magazines.
Okay.
So that's how I sort of segued into getting pictures published in skate mags. But then, I only started issue 16, and issue 19 was the last one published.
Okay.
I have this feeling that we produced there was a work done on an issue 20, and I shot pictures and there were proofs and things, but it never came out. Can't substantiate that. Maybe somebody else can. Anyway, then it collapsed. Shut down. There were no more magazines.
So, and out of interest, how many skate shops were in London in that boom? Would you guess?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Lots.
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah. Okay. So
I mean,
the guys.
Hey, wait a minute. People don't appreciate the scale of this. You could buy skateboards in Walrus. You could buy skateboards in Boots. Everybody was jumping on that bandwagon for a while. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. People were selling them in market stalls and stuff, weren't they? I remember. Yeah. I remember kids getting them there.
Yeah.
And what do you attribute to like the collapse of like the sudden death of like, so to speak, of skateboarding?
Well, I don't. There were other factors apart from just the skating. There were commercial factors that did this. So one of the things that made a huge mess of it was the way this was all. During those boom years, basically, you'd get in, say, as many red Kryptonic wheels as you could afford to order. As soon as they arrived, they would go out the door. So you took the money that you'd made out of that and ordered twice as many. As soon as they arrived, it went out the door. It carried on like that. So you're actually financing the whole thing out of credit, not out of capital, unless you're China.
Okay.
China survived because, one of my theories, I don't know, is that one of the reasons they survived all this is because they had the assets to afford to do it without borrowing huge amounts of money against the prospect of being able to sell twice as many wheels as you did last time, and then throw a spanner in the works in the form of a dock strike. So you've got these colossal quantities of equipment, ever bigger, the biggest order ever, because it's always booming, so it's more than last time. And they always get stuck in the customs. Not customs, in the docks. There's a dock strike.
Okay.
So suddenly you've got no income, nothing to sell, and massive debt suddenly due. And that will have thrown such a massive spanner into the wholesale and distribution people like Dana, like Alpine, that I suspect that may have had some knock-on effect on the actual culture itself. The shop suddenly finding things going horribly wrong is going to have a knock-on effect, maybe. But I don't know. I'm not really good on why these things.
Because it was imminent death, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about skating in those days with the parks and so on is all the emphasis was on parks and vert by that point. The parks were actually not very good. It was very, very difficult to do the kind of stuff that appeared in the magazines, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say why these things are off the boil.
A number of things, then, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's your opinion on that? How did BMX go off the boil? How did that feel like to you? Because it did.
It was presented very badly and probably the very same reason, maybe, or not the same, but like similar reasons. They presented it when adults got involved, or like grown-ups, as I like to call them. They kind of took it and presented it in a really childish, sports-like way.
Yes.
Which didn't help. So as the riders got older, they didn't really want to be associated with that anymore. So they either stopped or they evolved, like what happened to the guys in Action Bike.
Okay.
That's my theory on it.
Yeah, I don't think Skateboard Mag, for example, suffered from that. I think it was a pretty cool mag. But of course, the other thing then is there was an awful lot of other media coverage of skateboarding.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and that probably
organisations, and it's on TV. Like, for instance, you remember the BMX contest that they showed on TV and stuff.
I do.
And there was a weird song that came out, and just there was a lot of bad stuff that happened with BMX, and it was always that you got thrown at you. You didn't get the cool stuff thrown at you. You got that thrown at you. So I think that maybe had an effect too. But yeah, I also, whilst doing a bit of research, I found some newspaper clippings, which I'll also send you, where people are trying to bring in this thing into skateboarding, where this is too dangerous for our kids. Too many people are getting hurt. We should think about banning this thing, which I'd never seen before. And I was very interested in that. I was like, whoa, this is some group called ROSPA. They're actually still around.
Oh.
They were bringing to the table that this is too dangerous. There's fatalities in America and Australia. Maybe we should think about banning this, which I was very surprised about seeing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was definitely against. It was against everyone. Yeah. The world was against skateboarding, and I guess when the world is against you, it's hard to fight back.
Wait a minute. Because a key part of the skate culture in its finest form in the sort of 80s and so on, 90s, I don't know, is that whole thing about nobody understands us, we don't care. But,
that made it better.
Yeah, that made it better. There's a part of it that really doesn't like the Olympics or whatever, or stadium skating.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And for me, that also made BMX better. It had to go through that recession to come back healthy.
Yeah.
Without those downtimes, it's not going to come back as was. So
no. And one of the things that speaking of that, I think you're absolutely right. I think the reason that a lot of skate culture in the UK can't be the case anymore, but it's an interesting. I feel how long the legacy of that dark era between the 78 through to 80 whatever, when skateboarding was really, really dead, the dark ages, and there was this tiny group of people still skating in the UK who all felt they knew each other and went trooping around having competition and get-together type things all over the country. And those people and the culture that we were creating there had a huge impact, I think. It shaped it. That sort of... that sort of, we'll just carry on and do it. And we don't care. And, like that...
Forged in the flames. That's what I like to say. Forged in the flames.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
So then, like, you're going now from taking pictures of skateboarding. Well, you're still taking pictures of skateboarding throughout, I would guess. But then the BMX thing starts to come around, right? As skateboarding is fading out of the public eye.
There's something in between. There's roller disco in between.
I remember roller disco, yeah.
There's
but did you got involved in that or no? You did,
yeah. All the skate people got involved in that because the urethane wheels were the thing. So all the skate shops and skate distributors and so on got involved in that one. And the thing is, it's right. So having seen that you can adapt from one thing to another, adapt again, the next thing that came along was actually BMX. So a lot of those shops, skate-type shops, started getting involved in BMX. So that's how I was first exposed to BMX. I was still working at Alpine Sports, who kept open they had this little hardcore group of us who were trying to sell all the old stock, basically. And keeping, and they I think, I don't know, but they probably did quite well out of roller skates. And that was a very short-lived boom. But my goodness,
was that one or two summers?
I doubt if it was even more than a year.
Yeah.
But it was pretty mental during the middle of it. But because of the skate experience, they didn't get burnt in the same way and left with a load of stuff. They were very sensitive to the... No, stopping. It's stopping.
Yeah,
So fast forward a bit. and BMX is on the horizon. There are sense, you pick up on that. So this skate shop, effectively, that I was involved in, started stocking BMX bikes. And so I started vaguely going along and seeing what was happening. So the first BMX pictures I ever took would be down at Chatham Park. So it's called down near Gillingham, down that way.
One of the first races, yeah.
Yeah, so I was going there and photographing that. We were all just finding our way in those days, just really photographing it for myself.
Okay.
I can't remember whether OBMX, as it was there, official BMX existed at that point or not. But certainly I wouldn't have touched it with a barge pole. Sorry, Richard. Sorry, Nigel. Yeah.
Maybe some of those pictures ended up in the Alpine newsletter, right? Because they used to send out the newsletter.
I mean, the newsletter is where I put the skate picture that I was taking. And the newsletter was a key part of my transition into magazines, I suppose. That was just trying to keep a communication channel open. That's what I've always been really, really into. I'm not sure if we ever printed some BMX. We must have done.
I've got some with BMX pics. Maybe they were yours, I don't know. But
they would have been. It was all mine. Okay. Everything in it. Everything in that was mine. And my parents helped fold the envelope and the things and stick them in envelopes to mail them out. That was a very hands-on job, that one.
All right.
Typed it all up on the dining room table. Electric typewriter. It's all yours,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was okay. So, and then how do you where do you go from? I heard that you didn't like taking pictures of BMX racing. Was that quite early on that you kind of had that? Or you didn't enjoy the race or something race related?
Okay, so first I kept well clear of certainly official BMX and Action Bike to start with. The only involvement I think I had with that was via possibly running adverts or something like that. I mean, I was very, it's very hard if you come from a skate background, you've been skating, and then the suggestion that somebody doing a curb endo or something like that is super rad or whatever. It was. Yeah. I'm afraid very, very snobby about it and just thought, no, this is too cheesy. No. But I did. I mean, good go. But you can't be selling this stuff and trading in it without being involved in the scene to some extent. So go to races or whatever. How I first started taking pictures for Action Bike, I can't really remember. But certainly I did. And the first aspect of that would have been racing, because mostly the magazine was about racing. So I was into this world where on the weekend you'd be jumping in the car and driving to Ipswich or I don't know,
wherever the race was,
to photograph the races. And I mean, some of that I really enjoyed. Some of the people I really, really liked, because it's like a family thing, because, there's this whole crew of people, like a mobile circus, who go around to all these events. So, people like the Lunn family or Bridget and Johnny Hayes and Simon Hayes and people like that. It was great just seeing them all and so on. But, I liked photographing it. I liked trying to photograph it in a different way. So huge difference was that Richard Francis, for example, who was the original great photographer on Action Bike, he had a traditional sports photographer approach to it. So he'd slap on a long lens and he'd like a marksman, pow, shooting, got it. Whereas my approach, because of the skating, was I'd slap on a wide-angle lens and clamber up the side of the berm and no doubt scare the pants out of the riders. I mean...
So you get right in there like you was at skating.
Yeah, totally. So I was doing it in a very different way. I was very much into wanting to involve people in the scene. So wide-angle lenses, you're right in there, in the middle of it all. But the thing I really had a problem with BMX racing was what we used to call the proud parent syndrome. So you'd have this little sort of 8-year-old kid or 7-year-old or 6-year-old, God knows what, has basically bang, he's in the, he's crashed. And the parents scream out, get up, finish it, get back on your bike. And I thought, just a race, for God's sake. The
sport mentality.
I really had problems with that angle of it. And then I can also remember seeing Andy Ruffle at the sort of peak of his career, where, this is when he's got all the Ford sponsorship. So he's sitting in there before a race in his Turbo RS or whatever it was, greatly insanely fast. But he is just fixated. I mean, he's just staring straight ahead, rigid. I mean, he may have been doing some practice like meditation or something, but it looked more like, oh my God, there's just so much riding on this. This is horrible.
It's fun, yeah.
And that's kind of weird, when you think of what people were doing in skating in terms of psyching themselves up to do something insanely dangerous and so on, but somehow different, it felt to me. Less riding on it.
Okay. Yeah. So skateboarding, where I suppose when it went into recession, it still had the core rules, right? You still had to, like, for instance, like that would, no one's psyching themselves up to do like a frontside air, like sitting in their car and zoning out, are they? No. They're getting in on the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So for instance, and there's still a rule to it where that didn't look right, you're going to have to do it again. Was that early on in skateboarding?
Ooh.
Say for instance, like a frontside air and your knees are sticking out, or one of the things that they talk about now, certain styles. Style was a thing still, right?
The style,
or did it not come in yet?
Style was a huge thing, but not talked about in quite that way. And certainly I'm not aware of anybody thinking about, I need to do that trick again because it didn't look quite right. Okay. I'd never heard anybody say that. I certainly would never. I've never told anybody to do anything on a skateboard or a bike. No,
not you personally. I meant the people doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think people may have had an idea about how they wanted it to look. Obviously, that's when I was talking about those slideshows. That's what I was picking up on. Which are the type of things that people think presents it well? But bear in mind, of course, this is all pre-digital, so it's not like anybody can have a clue apart from what the photograph's going to come out like.
Okay.
So
I just wondered if that was from BMX was very unrefined and people were just like, whatever, is a trick. But as it went on, it became really precise, but not for a few years.
I think that was always an element of stylishness within skating.
Okay.
It was quite interesting at London Calling last year, that big event that Steve Douglas...
I was there,
Right, on the panel discussion, I thought the most interesting thing was hearing the whole business about the surf influence and seeing amazing video of, I'm sure who it was, I think it might have been Kadir Giri, I can't remember, skating across London Bridge and just, oh my God, that was so rad.
Yeah. I wasn't at the talk, I was at the exhibition,
All right.
But I watched it on video, so...
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Because that hadn't really occurred to me at that point.
So when did you start getting into shooting, not racing, the just people riding BMX? Was it curb endos and stuff like that you?
I don't know. I can't remember. No, I just plucked the name of the vague trick I could remember from those early days.
Well, I remember a famous shot in Action Bike of two guys doing it together. From somewhere in London.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is one of the things where I have to say
no problem. I understand. It's a while back.
Can't really remember. I mean, one of the other things that because I've talked about it, but we should maybe mention on here, I haven't even got access to the magazines, so it's not like I can look at any of this stuff and piece it together. I have got a full set of rads, but they're in a storage unit. So, when you send me through, as you have done, scans of things, it's the first time I've seen it in whatever, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. And I can't, can't necessarily always recognise a photograph I've taken.
Yeah,
it's quite nice.
But
on Instagram,
some of the pictures
you say, "Oh, did I do that?"
And someone tagged you in, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's quite good.
Well, I noticed that some of the pictures don't even say who took the photos; it just says who the contributors were at the front.
No, it's quite interesting that. I thought they did, but they don't. I suppose, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. They do refer to the photographers sometimes, but not necessarily. Right, yeah. It's curious, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just have a look at what we got here. So, yeah, you started as you was a contributor for Action Bike for, 3 years or 4 years or something?
Quite a while. I mean, that must have upset Richard Francis no end, because I basically was doing more and more stuff, I suppose, because, I'd go and do the races happily, that like he did. I'd shoot tests. They did tests, remember, things like that.
Yeah.
Which are basically photo sessions as far as I was concerned. And I suppose with the freestyle elements, I was more into that. And therefore, as that became a bigger element of the magazine, I would be taking yet more. And then at some point, I mean, there's a very gradual transition going on here. And without looking at the magazines, it'd be hard to work it out.
Yeah.
But I'd always, because of my involvement in the skate scene and indeed the retail chain and so on, had all manner of inputs that went beyond just being some photographer who went and took photographs. So there was an influence that people like me and Craig Campbell, who was another skate photographer, who started working there for them, doing stuff for them. He put a darkroom together in the toilets and was printing for them, and he was photographing stuff for them too. And then Nick Billett turns up and so on. So we're all starting to influence the content of it. And at various points, I probably was starting to write things. I can't remember writing too much for Action Bike, because that's primarily what Richard and Nigel did. But maybe I did. So I'm not sure.
Was the first memorable thing you did for Action Bike the Dark Side of the Bowl with Craig?
I don't know. Was that the first?
The first one that you've got any memory of. It definitely wasn't the first. It wasn't the first. I thought you did Meanwhile Madness. I thought was yours.
Probably.
With the guys at Meanwhile, Errol,
very nice,
R.I.P. and those guys. Yeah. Amazing spread.
No, that's very flash and blur. That's probably me. And also, Meanwhile, is totally local to Alpine. Alpine Sports stroke Action, because Alpine Sports at one point was based in Notting Hill Gate. And that shop is the one that they sold, as it were, to Alpine Action when Alpine Action span off out of it. So part of that little community. So, yeah, Meanwhile Madness, would certainly be me, I think.
Okay.
And I can't imagine who else it would have been.
Because I think I saw another feature somewhere else in a skate mag that was also Meanwhile Madness, which I thought was yours too.
Oh.
So I thought that you just transferred it over to the BMX. But there was also a quarter pipe feature, which I don't know.
I don't think
which one of
No,
that's not yours, no?
I think some of them might be, but not all of them.
Okay, which I really thought that was good and far forward thinking. But that was one of the things I was saying in the emails was you presented kids who were just locals. Like you took photos of everyone, which was progressive thinking at the time, because the other mags were mostly like not just locals; they were like stars in uniforms,
Oh no, yeah. I mean that's totally the type of thing that I've always been into. Definitely was wanted. If I went along on a session bikes or skating, I would take pictures including of the kid who's desperately wanting to get photographed. Just because I'm what bloody hell. I mean, it's like, if it's going to be like an event, and that it is in some scenes that all these people came from a magazine or whatever. To me, you know, they don't necessarily end up in the magazine, but there's no harm in banging off a few extra shots and making someone feel that they are part of this exciting occasion. Because they are part of this exciting occasion.
Yeah, they're part of the scene. Of course, contribute.
Yes, so, and I loved it when pictures of sort of unknown type people appeared in the magazine. One of the problems with that, of course, was sometimes you couldn't identify them. They didn't get a name check. It's wonderful. One of the nice effects of things like Instagram is when somebody puts up a picture and nobody knows who it is, and somebody tagged somebody. And finally, after all these decades, you know who it is. You've got a name for them. Brilliant. Bloody brilliant, that is.
So well, can you remember the ROM shoot of Dark Side of the Bowl?
Yes, I can.
With all the lights and stuff.
Yeah, I feel guilty about that. So I was running, you know, because ROM was a place I knew and loved. You know, very much. So when the idea came up of doing that, shooting Craig Campbell down there, I was totally, I'll go and do that. So I went into overkill mode and running extension leads, studio flashes, for goodness sake. Eat your heart out, Wig Warland. I was doing studio in the street back then, sort of. They weren't battery powered either. But anyway, what Wig has done in years afterwards,
of course,
totally blew my mind. I thought, I just look at that and went, oh, wow. But in a way, I could claim I did literally take, I had, I think, at least 4 studio flashlights, up on the stands with umbrellas and things, possibly. Maybe just reflectors. I hope just reflectors. And then there'd be the camera-based stuff as well. And Craig at that point I don't know how old he was, but he was quite young. So let's say he's 14 or 15
he's 14 or something. Yeah, that's right.
So, you got this ridiculous scene where all the front spotlight's on you, kid. My God, it is. It's awful, I think, in retrospect. I mean, sometimes it's really helpful to do that. Sometimes, it makes it an occasion, the fact that it's got all coloured lights and God knows what going on. There are times when that works really, really well. But I think this would have been more one where I should have adopted the other approach, which was my more normal one, which was to be as discreet as possible. Just one camera, maybe one flash on camera and one off, but don't get stuff in the way. Don't
overkill.
Don't sort of distract from it. It's bad enough, the pressures of trying to make the trick and do all that without just feeling that it's, I don't know. So I felt...
They were still good photos, though.
No. Don't get me wrong there. I think it was brilliant to do it. It was
inspiring. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, certainly in the skating days, in the early days, I did what awful lot of photographers do, which is go for special effects. So I was using I was always using fill flash, but I'll be using coloured lights as well, coloured flashes and funny filters to produce strange visual effects and things. Later on, I moved towards this much, much, much simpler approach: one camera, one lens, one flash gun, possibly 2, but keep it really simple and just concentrate on the skating. Don't get in anybody's way. Yeah. That was my big taboo, is I do not want to ever feel that I caused somebody to crash.
Yeah, of course.
Possibly. Maybe I did, but I never noticed it really. Yeah. And only twice did I ever get hit, really. Once was in the cage when a flying out board hit me on the head and nearly knocked me out. And the other, I don't know where it happened. Somebody actually put a wheel straight over my fisheye, and the mark of it is there to this day. Scuffed mark. Or other,
did the camera bash you in the face? Was you?
I presume so.
Or was you just shooting outside? I've done that before when someone's hit me. Yeah. And when I said that I should rephrase that, we should scrub that. They didn't hit my lens. My lens hit them. Because, as I say, the taboo, I never wanted to actually interfere with things. So the fact that I got a wheel on my lens serves me right. Misjudgment sometimes, And so the other feature that was quite early, I thought, was really like a changing of the times was the taking Fiola and Mike Dominguez to Livingston.
Right. Yes.
Which they actually name check you in that article, saying in comes TLB. He knows of a secret skate park where only like the raddest can. And it was quite a funny like little write up. But they was really good photos and a really good story. And what was that? Did you take them out of the Kellogg's show to go there? Because I think they missed an episode or something.
No.
Or was that after?
Right. There's all manner of elements of. That's not quite right. That's not right. Scratch write-ups about secret skate bots that only whatever. What happened there was they'd heard about Livingston. A lot of people from California have heard about Livingston.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That place has a reputation which spread around the world in the 70s and 80s. 80s, really. Yeah, it was the hottest spot in Europe. It was possibly hotter than many of the things that were left in California or other parts of America. So people wanted to come and skate it. And definitely when we were on the tour, up in Gateshead, I think it was, they were asking about it. We've heard about this place. It's called Livingston. Can we go there from here? Is it near here? And I thought, oh, yeah, it's not far. It's not far. Because it is only, actually, I don't know what it takes to get there. 2.5 hours from Newcastle, I'm not sure.
It's not far if you're up there.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, we could go up there and you could ride a bit. But the deal was we have to get back. The thing they missed was a demo. There was a demo going on in Hull.
Okay.
So Richard Grant was well up for this from the magazine side of it rather than the organising a tour side of it. So he said, go and do it. You can get them back to Hull in time, can't you? Yeah. So we went up to Livingston, which took longer than I'd estimated, of course. But they got to do what they wanted, which was to ride. And indeed, the key point about Livingston, and this harks back to what you were saying about Rosper earlier, is Livingston Ian Urquhart had fought the big fight, to say it's going to be free and unsupervised and still radical. And the Development Corporation there let him do it eventually. They accepted that it could be free and unsupervised. And that set a precedent, which I think has made possible every council skate park in the UK and elsewhere since, is that you can build quite good things without having to pay an attendant to monitor, and do all that. So, yes, one aspect of that is, they were saying, can we really ride here without helmets? And I was saying, yep, nobody's going to stop you. Thinking. So they wanted to do that. They really wanted the chance to ride a skate park without wearing a helmet was just too good a thing for them to miss. So they did. And we shot some pictures. And then eventually I had to sort of prize them away from the place, I think, and try and get down to Hull in half an hour or 2 hours. I don't know what it was. So suffice it to say, by the time we got to the place where the demo was, there was total tumbleweed. They'd had to kick, the crowds had turned up. And
oh, shit, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that ended up really, really badly, which is a great shame, but it produced the most astonishing pictures.
Yeah, they're pictures of, unreal, man. Like, was it just you guys, Eddie, Mike, Bob Morales? I've seen pictures of Tony McKenzie riding Livingston, which I assumed was from the same time.
No, can't be from the same time.
Different time.
No.
Okay.
Was Bob Morales there as well? He's in the pictures, isn't he?
There's a picture of him doing a kick turn or something, yeah.
Because my recollection of it is there's just two of them in the car. It was a full Granada. So it had big enough to get the bikes in the back. But maybe, in my recollection, it's always two, just them. But you see, this is where it all gets a bit hazy.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. So Fiola we dropped off at Jeff Barraclough, I think. And then Dominguez was staying in what looked like a fairly grotty hotel on the Cromwell Road in London, down by the the V&A, those museums.
Yeah.
Haro was there as well. So he was staying with him in this room, and that to sort of get in there at sort of 2 a.m. or whatever it was we got home to London.
So those, I guess there's pictures of Haro and Dominguez at Southbank, and that would have been after that, right?
Well,
they're your photos, I would assume, yeah.
Probably, possibly, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, without sort of seeing the whole magazine and placing it chronologically, yeah. But yeah, those Livingston shots were John North from the Gateshead racetrack for Kellogg's BMX.
Oh, okay. And did you get any grief from the skateboarders, like what the feature said, or it was all good?
I don't think you got any grief from anybody about it.
Yeah, cool. And there was a warning on the. I think it was a spread of Mike D. And
I saw that in the scan you sent me. I thought, oh, what cheesy stuff.
1984, that's what happened.
Yeah,
he still made it. Yeah.
Funny to think though that sort of BMX Action Bike is bending over backwards to say, oh, don't do this at home, kids. And then there's the stuff with the UK BFA where we're accused of sort of deliberately going out of our way to sort of spread sedition.
Yeah. That's definitely something I wanted to touch upon as well. So, and also like at this point, like Dave Curry's kind of coming into the Action Bike Editorial, right? He's the test rider, I guess, first.
Yeah. Again, this all gets a bit hazy. I mean,
okay.
Because Curry was one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. There are a few people like him, in this magazine's world, Nick Phillips, another.
Yeah.
People who are just colossally, prodigiously talented. The other thing about Dave Curry is he's the most astonishingly prolific person I've ever known in terms of his graphics and designs and his work, his video work that he did, his digital video stuff. He could just spew this stuff out. Huge amounts.
A creative guy, yeah.
Yeah. Astonishing person.
I think,
absolutely a remarkable person.
I think he had a lot of... he put a lot of direction into Action Bike. Like in about 85 or so, he appeared as one of the test riders, and he just seemed to guide that mag in that year, like in a really good direction from my viewpoint. And I just wondered how much he actually used to do. Nick said he used to do quite a bit at one point, but
yeah, I'm afraid to say. I mean, I wouldn't quite agree with that. As in,
oh really? Yeah.
Of the two of them, Nick guided things extensively, heavily, and in very exciting and interesting ways.
Okay,
but I think probably a bit more than Dave, because I think Dave probably had more of a challenge dealing with the sort of straight aspects of it. Because there's constantly pushing against Richard and Nigel, for example. It was a very creative, productive sort of tension. Sort of people like Nick, with my coach sort of support and whatever, and Curry and Dobie, we'd all be pushing against what we saw as the sort of the cheesier elements of BMX Action Bike, and they would push back for what turned out to be very sound commercial reasons, as I later appreciated, and tone it down a bit. So I think probably, I don't know, I have the feeling Dave was a bit less, couldn't be bothered to compromise with that and just thought that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and just get on with it.
Look, when I look at some of the pictures of him, he's doing some sort of weird like aggro face, or like he's appearing in like completely like a summer look, like of these crazy shorts and like this Action Zone shirt, and like just the imagery that he had just was completely like different to the rest of the mag. That's why I assumed he guided that a bit in that direction.
Well, I think everybody
he definitely brought a vibe.
Yeah. I mean, everybody did. It was.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And there was that one picture, one thinking of where he's in the tube tunnel and he's carving up the.
Oh yeah.
Was that one of yours?
I don't know. I presume
that's
it
a
must
really
have
good
been.
one. Yeah. It looks like one of yours, but yeah.
And if it is, it's a rip-off of the thing that Paul Sunman did at King's Cross with a load of skaters.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still relevant, though.
Legendary photographs that Sunman did at King's Cross with Shane O'Brien and various others, I think. Brilliant stuff.
Before that one, yeah?
Well, I don't know, but I'm strongly
That's 85, so...
I'm strongly suspecting it was that Paul did that first.
Interesting. I'd like to see the skate versions, for sure.
I don't know.
That's early, 85. So I'm thinking, like, if someone in 84 on a skateboard is carving up them tunnels, possibly, but still pretty. It still seems pretty street. Yeah, but there was like a little lip at the bottom that you had to get over.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it is that street. Full pipes, old school traditional skating. I mean,
but the lip that you'd have to. It's like it was had a little. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
No, I mean, I can't say. I mean, this is again a classic example of. I plead fading memory. I don't know.
No worries. And then, like, I wanted to also ask you, like, what you thought at this point. There's like BMX sports hall contests, which I would assume you wasn't really that into. Did you attend many of them?
Yeah. You
did.
Do you mean the tour, the UK BFA tour ones?
Yeah,
like the whole shot.
The series, the BFA series was first.
I don't know. I probably went to all of them.
Okay.
I can remember one sort of seared into my memory, which involved all going somewhere on a coach. They organised a coach to take us there.
Yeah, that's right. They used to do that, yeah.
And the coach driver didn't know London very well. I can't remember what the pickup was. And I remember distinctly at one point, for God's sake, we're going the wrong way up Park Lane or down Park Lane for wherever it was that we were going to. This is going to take forever. I also remember I had a copy of Public Domain, the Powell video, or was it Future Primitive, one or other, had just come out. And I had a copy
Primitive, I would have thought, yeah.
One of them, I had a copy of it. And they had a video machine, the coach, and you desperately try and get that put on. And I think my recollection is that Peter Noble was having none of it. Didn't want to skate.
Oh, Peter Noble was on the coach, yeah.
I think he was. Yes, he was. Yeah, he was.
Oh, wow.
Definitely, he was. Oh, that was a grim trip. I just remember feeling no sleep, and then get to where it is and do this. But anyway, that's just an anecdote about it. I can remember so little about those events.
Okay. That says it all then, really, doesn't it?
No. It's just, I've always hated really photographing events, be it skate competitions or BMX freestyle competitions, because it's such a challenge to be in the right place at the right time. You've got to pick your spot and go there and think, I hope somebody's going to... I suppose quarter pipes are a bit of a blessing for that, because you know what they're going to be. Real challenge, I find, to get it. I prefer skate sessions, bike sessions. The more free format things where it's not so. Oh God, I've missed it. I haven't got the shot. I found them all a bit stressy and difficult, and I like the looser format of most of the skateboard events.
Okay, and the skateboard events were they already coming back at this? I guess in '85, right?
No,
you're starting to come back now.
Well, the skateboarding events going on right the way through the Dark Ages. So the ESA would organise events. They were competitions.
All the way through, like 82 and 83. Okay, I didn't know. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. I think in '82 that was the European Championships at Crystal Palace, which I got lumbered with. Well, I got lumbered with organising that, because the person who kicked it all off ended up being arrested. So that all backfired on me. I hate competitions. I organising when it's horrible. The Italian team turning up and saying, "Where is the bus to take us to our hotel?" I was thinking, you what? It's oh God. Or one of the
brilliant.
competitors from Belgium turning out, he brought his gun with him. And I said, put that away.
No way.
I ban your car, mate. You do not carry guns around in this country. Oh, crikey. But sorry. Competitions were going on throughout, largely as an opportunity for us all to get together and keep the flame alive and just have a lot of fun. And at first, it was only the competitors were interested in them. But I remember, for example, this one, it's written about in the magazine somewhere, we actually make this point, is at Warrington. And huge numbers of kids had turned up to see the skateboard competition and just thinking, ooh, what's going on here? Bloody hell. Oh, this is on its way back. This is, just felt wonderful as a skater. There was an earlier thing, which was a demo at a wind and surf show in Alexandra.
Yeah, that's right.
That was amazing. That was so funny because it was just they put this ramp up as a little sideshow thing and said, oh, we'll have some skateboarding. It's quite cool. And basically what happened every time the demo happened was the whole place completely drained and nobody was interested in the windsurfing show or whatever. Everybody's into skating, and we the skaters were just thinking, oh, wow, this is what we'd always dreamed of. These people
going on,
really, really interested. And the same at Warrington at that event there.
So did they do the wind and surf twice?
No, that was once, I think.
I think the wind and surf was after Warrington.
Oh, okay. Really? That's interesting.
Because I looked at that.
Around. No, I'm sure you're right.
I looked at it, and the other day, and I thought that was one of the first features of skateboarding on the comeback. So in Action Bike, you started you had the picture of Nick Phillip on his quarter pipe doing the 1 footer with the wheel discs and stuff, and it on the cover, and there was a little picture of someone skating, and that was the first of when skateboarding started being featured again in Action Bike. And I think that one brought out the little pull-out of the skate action. Do you remember that? There was a little pull-out inside.
Oh, yeah, very much. Very much.
I've got it, yeah.
Because the joke about that.
So from there, it started coming back. Like skateboarding started being featured. That was December 85, I think, that issue.
Have we not managed to get some... I had a feeling maybe we got some skating in before that. Just one or two pictures or something. Or some sequence of somebody.
Possibly. There might be like a sequence of Roger Harvey doing the boneless. I think it was Roger Harvey. He has like a mohawk on a concrete bank.
I have a feeling that some of the stuff with Adrian Domain or something like that, I have a feeling.
I think Domain was 86, I think.
Right, okay. Well. Anyway,
but I'll verify it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, the skate action thing was hilarious because the Higginsons later produced a magazine and called it Skate Action.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Just looked at that and thought, whoa. All right, great. Original or what?
And that was like the comeback then. Like the skate boom, the next skate boom started to happen from there. Yeah. From the mag pages, to me anyway.
Yes, but the skate, that only got there because all the signs and the money were saying so, that the skating was coming back. And the money, I say here, is, again, my recollection, I may be wrong about this because I wasn't involved in the production of the magazine, of the organisation of it, but I think the thing there was that Shiner agreed that they would take X number of pages.
Okay.
And if they did that with skateboard adverts, then the magazine would produce this supplement thing to go about skating in it. Because everybody knew at that point, commercially, that skateboarding is beginning to happen again. Now's the time.
BMX is knackered.
No, well, not. To be honest, not necessarily. Maybe people were thinking that. Certainly me personally, I was just, and I, was, wow, this is happening. It wasn't so much BMX is not happening. It's something we'd always wanted. Skating is happening. It's happening.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I'll tell you what I noticed. I noticed going through some of the issues in '86 that there's no bike companies advertising It's like shops and mail order BMX stuff, but there's no bike companies. There's like computer game ads, record ads, Cherry Coca-Cola, like all these kind of odd off-key ads, and the bike brands are gone in a few of those issues.
Right, I think you may be conflating two things there. I don't know about the bike advertising disappearing. This may be just coincidence.
For the brands, not there were still shops.
Yeah.
But brands were done. Yeah. In a couple of issues.
Yeah, but the other thing, as soon as you say computer games and things like that, I instantly start thinking of the people who bought the magazine Crossroad Deltaneer. So if you have a look at who owns the magazine at that point, you'll probably see a transition because they were computer magazine publishers. And
that's right. That's after it missed a couple of issues, and then there's a page saying where have we been or something. So it is. You're right. It's after that. Yeah.
Well, that's where those adverts came from, and conceivably. They had their ad people was different ad salespeople, I think, by that point. Didn't have the BMX connections. I really don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, okay.
Actually.
Yeah, I found that interesting.
As soon as you say computer games and all that, so I think, that's when the magazine had been sold. And at first, after Richard and Nigel had sold the magazine, at first, they had a contract to produce the content of it. So all the editorial content was still produced in Tooley Street by the remains of the old team. And then they decide, with their own paste-up studios and design studios, and then they needed to cut the costs of that and divert those people to working on other more lucrative projects probably. So that's when they said, I wonder if Nick could do it. And Nick Phillip was sort of recruited as the designer. And then, after whatever period of doing it that way, they still couldn't make the sums add up. So it became, no, basically Richard, the original organisation doesn't even want to produce the content now. So, tell you what, Tim and Nick could do it together. Just the two of them, they could do it. So that's when the transition to RAD began. It was sort of it's just going to be produced by Tim and Nick. And by the way, it's morphing into a skate mag for something new.
RAD. Yeah. Well, so let me before we read and destroy, right? But let me go back a second. So Nick Phillip. Comes in. Can you remember the first meeting with Nick Phillip when he presented the ad that I interviewed him and he talks about it? But I thought he said that you looked at the thing that he presented, right? But you can't remember. No,
I think this is one of these things where people get it slightly wrong. I think because the advertising side of it would have been handled by Richard and Nigel, or more to the point, Mike. What's his name? Their ad sales guy. Oh, I forgot his name. But so I can't remember what Nick brought in, but it would have been them that he was showing to. And they told him, no, this is what you have to do, I think. And he went off and learned how to do it. And but yeah, I mean, it certainly there's a truth to that. My recollection of it all is sort of, so this kid turns up. Well, not this kid. I think maybe I've met him before then, but Nick turns up saying, I want to do this. I've got this clothing company. I want to take an advert. How much is an advert? And so agreed that he's going to take whatever it was, an 8th page or whatever. And so he said, sort of, what do I have to do? And they said, well, you have to produce the advert. And showed him artwork and stuff. That will.
Yeah. Okay. They guided him. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, but I don't think that would have been me. I was never involved in the paste up and design of it. I wrote lots. I shaped the editorial content. I photographed. That's what I did.
All right.
But not the ad stuff, no.
And also, just before this, there was the Mons 1 jam, which I assume you took the photos for.
Yeah, that would have been me, yes. Totally.
Okay. Can you remember that event? Somebody told me it was a skate and bike event.
I think they were. The ones I remember.
Both of them were, yeah?
Well, I don't know. Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay. No worries.
I always assumed that was a very mixed environment. Things got on well. I mean, like that first time that we went down, when the only ramp he had was in one of the barns and had all the coloured lights again. This was very early on.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, isn't this an example of early skateboarding in the magazine? Because clearly there's Tony Mackenzie and people like that. You sent me a picture of that. So there are the bike people there. But I distinctly remember Bod's in it as well. Bod Boyle.
Bod, yeah. I think Bod and Sean Goff maybe. You're right.
I would expect Sean to be there, yeah.
Small pics.
Yeah.
They was in there.
So that's a very mixed. But that wasn't one of the jams. That's just a feature.
That's just a photo shoot in the barn. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it moved. And then the jam was outside on the half pipe, which maybe was new at that point.
Yeah, probably.
When it had the Andy Shahara cover. I don't know if you remember the cover, but it had like a schools out kind of scrawl on it, which was different to the rest of the mags previously. That was a really good, and that was a real good feature as well. Do you remember anything about that Mons 1 jam?
Not really. No.
Okay, no worries. Because it was I thought you might remember because it was a turning point for BMX, so to speak. It was slowly creeping forward and changing from, these guys are just going to ride quarter pipes in sports halls for their contests or events. And now it's being presented on a half pipe like skateboarding. So I thought you might have some sort of recollection. But it's no problem. You don't have to
my thought about that is that all of this just seemed totally natural and just we're not shaping anything. We're not making any conscious decision to change anything. It's just this is what actually is happening. There is this transition, Transformers, BMXers in disguise.
Yeah.
That was a race.
But it's only looking back that you can see the pivot points, right?
Yeah, at the time it was just
you're just doing your do.
Yeah. And I definitely. It was just part of what was happening, and I was part of it, and Nick was part of it, and so on.
Yeah.
And I speak in those terms because of the magazine connection. But remember that all the people like Sean Goff and Bod or whoever, they were all friends of mine, or people like, I don't know, friends quite the word, but friends, really. Yeah. We'd all been through a lot together. So, these weren't like anything, nothing was new. This was just, wow, there's more people interested in this than there used to be. This is great, bloody great.
Yeah. Nice.
Because you've got to bear that in mind. This is why I risk annoying people. So I'm a skateboard person.
Yeah, that's fine though. You still
it's absolutely bloody brilliant. I really think so. I thought it was wonderful. It collapsed. The dream seemed to be that we had no idea it was going to come back. We all just thought it's the best thing ever.
That's it. Yeah.
I just hope more people do it, and then be careful what you dream or wish for. Because look what we've done now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I look at the Olympic stuff and go, not me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, no. That is exactly it. But it's fine to be a skateboarder and be into skate, but you've still done a huge amount for BMX. So it's like, regardless of anything, you've still contributed huge amounts.
And I wouldn't want people to think this was just some mercenary, I can't do skateboarding, so I'll do this. I was into that stuff too, and very much the direction that people like Nick were taking it totally appealed to me. I was well into all of that. It was, it's a bit like when street skating came in. That felt really, really right to me. I thought this is absolutely bloody brilliant when that started to become prominent. And similarly, when the stuff that you're sort of talking about and identifying with Nick, all of that to me just seems so much more exciting, realistic and real than the stuff that I'd been photographing before. This was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, of course. Exciting, new, like a whole new vibe and something. Well, we might as well let's get into it then because I wanted to go there anyway. So so it's like basically like Nick, Eric, Craig Campbell, Jess, Tony McKenzie, Damon Nichols. Like this is the crew that I think of when we talk about this stuff. Those guys started doing their own thing, really.
Yeah.
And they brought a whole new direction, and then it sort of culminated at Mons too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the UK BFA, who were like big advertisers in action bike, I didn't know this until recent that they had two adverts, right? They were paid for, surely.
Really? I'd be very surprised if they were.
Really?
I'd have
okay, well, I'm gonna have to send them to you to make sure.
I have no idea. We'd have to ask Richard Grant about that. But
there's a double spread for the UK BFA and all their events in a few issues, and that's
okay.
So then, like,
my hunch would be that they didn't actually cough up money for that. They were sort of, it was Action Bike
promotion,
helping to publicise and support it
or something.
Yeah, I would suspect so. I'd be very surprised if they actually got money out of it. But anyway, maybe you're right.
I thought that's what the guy who wrote the letter was talking about when he said, "Watch you disappear." I was thinking, wow, that's like really vicious. But yeah, so those guys sort of conflicted with the BFA like big time, and then they brought up the whole street style thing and the swearing on the post, and there was like a huge collision course right between you guys, and what came out of that was the new life for like everyone who still rode BMX, really, because it was completely childish looking before this, even though that was still wacky. Looking back at it now, it's still sort of relit a fire. And then BMX started to change from there. And like I say, it's only looking back now that you can see the pivot points. But the mag started also getting very energetic. And I guess that was Nick's and yourself's input and what you were covering. Like you were doing Meanwhile Scene and like a lot of sort of punk-looking graphics and stuff like that. All came from that era. Can you remember how much you remember about the BFA debate? You seem to be like just brush it aside and not even pay attention to it. But in the mag, it was quite a feature,
Yes. I can't remember a huge amount of it. Is the truth. I'm not privy to the finances of the magazine, so I cannot be at all sure about whether that advert was paid for or not.
All right.
But yeah, in terms of, if I'd been running the magazine, I don't know whether I would have actually featured that stuff. But Richard and Nigel come...
The letters.
I think blowing it up into a big thing rather than just ignoring it and walking away. The thing I would not have done, obviously coming from my perspective, is paid any attention to it as in changing our approach or policy. But I think, as you just demonstrated by how large it looms in your memory, the decision to give it the coverage that they did and to actually build on it, instead of just sort of ignoring it. Yeah, let's turn, let's make this into content. Let's make this a feed. I think that's the Fleet Street in Richard and Nigel coming to the fore. And that's a good thing. I mean, I've learned so much about them. I would have missed the opportunity probably to say, wait a minute, they're delivering quite an interesting story here.
Yeah, it definitely was, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I'm not the type of person who actually had any sympathy much with the line they were taking. It was interesting reading the letter about Mons Jam and so on. I thought that was so offensive, so patronising about Mons. When you consider how much he was doing then, he was 16 or 17, I can't remember. He was doing so much for sort of the whole scene and making something really special happen there. And as far as I can make out, it's continued ever since. He's still active. He's still doing it. He did another jam last year. One of the nicest people in the whole scene, as far as I'm concerned. And again, hugely positive influence. And to be sort of this patronising, he's only whatever, he can't sign these contracts.
Yeah. It was clear to me that they were trying to take control over the whole thing. Like, when I look at that now, like, really, really obvious, they were trying to squash any creativity or like anything that they didn't like.
I think they
would
wanted
like suppress.
Yeah, I think they wanted. I don't know about that. I think it's slightly different. I think they had ambitions to sort of turn it into something like golf or something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, tennis is the one I was thinking. Yeah,
that type of thing, and all these conditions about a professional rider will only compete if the purse is at least this and so on.
Yeah, that's it.
They're trying to sort of boost it up into territory which it wasn't yet ready to go to. I mean, perhaps that's happened since. I dare say the prize money on some of these events is huge, but I just don't know. And I had witnessed close up the attempts to do something similar with skateboarding and how horrendous that had been and how the clashes that caused
before
with the skate culture. Yeah, back in the late 70s and early 80s. The Sports Council actually funded the English Skateboard Association, which was set up by a load of people who were trying to do that kind of thing, and who then disappeared, sort of pulled out of it when things got, when skateboarding started to crash, leaving the rest of us within the skate community to try and pick up the pieces and try and continue organising events with the support of the Sports Council, except the only thing the Sports Council could actually give you money for was going to foreign international competitions or training and coaching and standard schemes. And of course, all that coaching and training and scheme stuff was completely irrelevant. What we wanted was help with getting facilities or keeping facilities open. But at the time, that's people wanted skate parks and ramps at the time. So I'd see, and it just didn't mesh at all well with the skate culture. And it had been a horrible business.
So it's exactly the same for BMX, yeah.
So I could see
the
that
BFA
happening.
stuff.
Yes, trying to sort of put a straitjacket on skaters and freestyle riders. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it didn't work. But I thought the responses. Who was it? Was it Nick who wrote the responses?
I don't know.
Okay, they were really good. Yeah. They were amazing. There was like, at that point in time, I was probably 14 or something, and I remember looking at them and being like, oh, they're like pretty cool responses. And then when I looked at them again the other day, I was like, they're really good responses, as an adult.
You sent it as one of your scans. Shall I actually open it up and have a look? Hang on, let's see if I can...
only if you want to, yeah. It's, I mean, you've got to read through it, but like... They were great, yeah.
It's this. I'm trying to figure out which one it's going to be. Pics, etc.
I think it might have been in the first one.
First, it didn't work. Meanwhile, man, essentially tracking the words. Lovely picture of Nick at Mons.
Yeah, that's good, that one, yeah.
Why burnt my licence? Well, that's Nick. Hang on.
Yeah, that's it.
No, the intro is not Nick.
Okay.
That'll be Richard Grant or Nigel Thomas wrote it. Oh. But I mean, so the intro's blurred. One rider band, prize money handed back, a midnight session by car headlights. That'll be Richard or Nigel. I'm never sure which one of them wrote more of it. The magazine, actually. I don't know. And then the actual content, it's credited here. So that then Nick wrote that stuff, the response.
Okay.
Or is it another one that you were meaning?
There was a few, but I guess Nick wrote.
Oh, the one. Freestyle Frontlines, Why We're Banned. I couldn't read that, I'm afraid, the scans.
Oh, okay.
And the UKBFA
I should send that to you.
Anyway, I don't know. Short answer to that.
But they were really good. So if Nick did them and he was 17 or whatever, they were amazing. Yeah. So it made it. And like we say, like here we are 40 years later talking about that. So it obviously.
Yeah, it's quite picking up on something.
It made a mark. Picking
up on something you said there, which interests me, is Nick is forever saying that I'm really good with words. He should. I mean, as you just pointed out, he's wrote some really good stuff. He did. Yeah. He did. Everyone thinks of Nick as just graphics, but his influence on the magazine was huge. And Rad was, people tend to speak as if that was just me. Not at all. In those early days, it was really me and Nick, and also Dobie. Don't forget Dobie had a huge input on all of this as well. But really, and so did other people. Lots of other people in the skate world did. But certainly the hardcore at the centre of Rad, the early issues was just two of us, me and Nick. But Nick was a huge part of it, and not just the graphics.
Okay. Because I think he wrote I'm pretty sure he wrote, there's a thing with Dave, the fence plant with the swearing on it. I think he wrote the street style thing, what it is and what it's not. And I looked at that quite a few months back, and it's still relevant.
Yes.
It's still relevant today. It's amazing. I actually made a zine, and that was one of the pages in it. It was it's incredible to think that's still relevant now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we're going from action bike to read and destroy, right?
Yes.
What? And then the turning point of that was the Go For It issue.
Yeah. Shouldn't have done that. All text cover. Why not? Well, because the only people that's sitting on a newsstand, and you haven't a clue what any of these things are about. You're not going to reach for a magazine that just says "Go For It" on the cover.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was an indulgence, I suppose. That was the first issue that me and Nick did. Yeah, and it changes.
Solely.
Yes, and it changes. The plan was you can't change the name of the magazine. If we said if the owners, the new owners, had said to the magazine, to the distributor, "Oh, by the way, we're changing the title to Read and Destroy," they would have said, "Oh, wait a minute, your contract is for a magazine called BMX Action Bike. Let's renegotiate." Blah blah blah. So it couldn't change straight away. So we came up with this thing where over the course of 3 issues, we introduce the new name, and then it gets bigger and so on. So that was the plan. It was going to change its name into Read and Destroy, or Rad, over the course of 3 issues, and it was just me and Nick producing it.
Who come up with a name?
Well, it's quite interesting, because years earlier, on a trip to Dis, I think it was up in Norfolk, for a BMX race, Richard Grant, looking at Action Now's example, said, "I wonder if you could produce a magazine called Rad, just called Rad, that was full of lots of me." And I set him straight. This was the most cheesy, uncool thing you could possibly call a magazine, and there's no way you could do that. And then fast forward to actually being in a position of wanting to do that, to produce a magazine called that. I think Ray Abbott from Alpine, who was at that point selling advertising, Alpine Action, because Alpine Action had gone bust by this point. He was selling advertising for Action Bike, I think. And we were talking about it and all talking about the name and throwing it around. And basically knew that somebody like Nick could never stand us calling it Rad. So it was sounded much better from that perspective to call it Read and Destroy. Okay. So that's where Read and Destroy came from, is this realisation that Rad did still sound a bit sort of cheesy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So you applied the words to the name rather than the other way around.
Yeah, which was a rip-off from Skate and Destroy and all of that type of imagery. words, phrase, and I can't think. I'm getting tongue-tied. Yeah, so that was a rip-off as well, I suppose, to be fair. But then we did actually hit problems with from the news trade, I think, about people being a bit uncomfortable with it being called Read and Destroy.
Really?
And sounding very negative. So the publishers decided that basically we had to tone it down. We'd stop calling it Read and Destroy. So it became, the words disappeared off the logo. And it became just RAD.
Then it turned into RAD. Okay,
well, RAD. We tended, if you look at the typography and things, we tended to call it RAD.
That's what it was known as.
Yeah, Brad, sorry. I mean, the thing is that we, of course, never called it anything. It was just the magazine.
Yeah.
You know, I never called
as you would when it's yours, yeah.
Yeah, I never called myself TLB. That's what other people called me. My name's Tim. But yeah, so to us, it was always the magazine. So it's not like I was actually talking about this thing called RAD or RAD or Read and Destroy very often at all. Those were no words that were not on my lips very often, because it was just the magazine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. What did you think of like the graphics and stuff that Nick was doing?
Brilliant.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, just so much energy. Yeah, so innovative and creative, and just so inspired. He would just go off into so many mental directions, and you know, his use of the copier, spanking things up, was the phrase he used to describe. He used to use to describe it at the time. He was just really, really good at that. Had a real flair and feel for that, and did some crazy things. I mean, this is a story that's told by me in many, many occasions. Is that the cover of the one that's got grip tape all over it? So that's got wind. That's the Wind and Surf one, isn't it? I've actually got it here. The Repro House. You know, Nick had made this collage containing all this crazy stuff, including grip tape. And when we went round the day after, that's the one, full on aggro, in grip tape. And it was like, went round to take the next day's load of layouts round to the Repro House. Buckle Bob, as Nick used to call him, Bob Smallbone, standing there like they pulled an all-night shift, sort of mopping his brow and saying, "You tell that bastard Nick that it took us ages. It took us ages to stop that stuff sparkling." They've been trying desperately to have it not look like sparkle grip tape. So,
okay.
Well,
brilliant. And it was definitely from the mags that we'd had previously doing BMX to when it turned to like the end of Action Bike and RAD. It was so representative of what was going on. Like, it was so not like BMX Bi-Weekly or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
It spoke to the audience so well, like what he was doing. So
and a lot of that was Nick.
Yeah. It was good. Man. It was good to even looking now at those graphics. When I flick through their mags, they're still great. Like,
I look at that. The cover you just
that's
held
what people
up,
try.
And I look at that.
Yeah, people try and achieve that now. Like, yeah. And what the other thing I was going to ask you is a lot of people think that you phased, like that BMX was phased out of the mag. But when I looked at the mags recently, because I went through them before we spoke, BMX lasted until like 91 or 92 in the mag. So it wasn't like it suddenly disappeared. It just went down to like 4 pages, 2 pages, and then 1 page, and then a pic, and then 2 pages had come back. So it wasn't phased out completely until very, very late. Yeah, which is when no one really rode. So
I mean, I think that was
4 people rode in London or whatever.
That was the key to it. Is that the skating was happening, And bear in mind, Nick's a bike person.
Yeah, of course.
But I was very much excited by all the stuff that was happening in skating and the opportunity to actually publish the magazine about it. So I'm pushing away at that, driving on that, just, busy, excited. And certainly at first, we were also aware of the bike stuff and what was happening there and wanted to continue on doing it. But yeah, it did sort of fizzle out. It wasn't, unlike the name change, for example, which was totally pre-planned, the fading down of the BMX is something that really more or less just happened. It just felt the way it felt, that the skate stuff was more interesting and more exciting.
Or easier to cover too, right? Well, BMX was so desolate at that point in time, 89, sort of 88, 89. But even though there was still some of the later features from those years, like 88, 89, where you did like South Bank Jam and stuff like that, they were still really good features when it was in.
Thank you.
Like they were still progressive things,
I'm glad.
In both photos, writing, and graphically, were real cool. Yeah, I remember Dave Slade wrote something for one of the real late ones, which was some pictures of guys at South Bank, and they was real good too. So yeah, there wasn't what everyone thinks where it's just cut off. It wasn't like that. But yeah, so you kind of, it just evolved into a skate mag.
Yes. It did.
And Nick was gone by then, right?
Oh, right. Was he? I don't know.
I think Nick went in 88. Nick left and he moved to America.
Yeah, I mean, Nick wanted to pursue, much more opportunities for more exciting for him in America, as turned out to be the case.
Of course.
So that was a bit sad because he was such a driving force for the whole thing. And also, I suppose, the relevant thing there is that he was from a bike background, so that was really good. So that would have changed things, no doubt. But, yeah, and all the other people who were getting involved in the magazine were coming from the skate culture, which is the culture I sort of knew about. So that's really how I suppose that will have accelerated the transition yet again.
Who did the graphics after Nick? Do you know?
Ian Lawson. Well,
I remember.
He now goes on. He's changed his name. It's Ian Roxburgh now, but same person. Yeah, at the time he was credited as Ian Lawson. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I remember that name. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's again part of that sort of Oxfordshire scene with Mon and Sean and all those people down there.
All right. And I wanted to ask you about the scooter features, the Ninja scooter features.
Yes.
Can you shed some light? I meant to ask Nick and Craig. I think I asked Craig, but I meant to ask Nick and I forgot. Shed a bit of light on that for us, because that suddenly popped up and then popped down again after a few issues.
Yeah, I think that was all just advertising.
Was that Shiner?
No, I don't know whether it was. Shiner was into it as well, but I think it was triggered by somebody else, an independent distributor, somebody who launched Ninja Scootex.
Ninja Scooters.
That's the name. Bang, they come back in. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the magazine at that point, that would have been, I think, a Richard Grant type era. Nigel Thomas, the original company, I think.
Yeah, 87,
Things are getting a bit hard with the BMX stuff, and somebody comes along who wants to pay to run adverts about those scooters. And other, as you say, I think Shiner did Veriflex ones, or somebody did, so they were probably into it as well. So there was a commercial interest in a vehicle to run adverts about scooters. So it needs to have a bit of content about scooters in it. So, yeah, I mean, we didn't like doing it. People like me and Nick or Damon or whatever, but, I mean, I would have not liked it. I don't think Nick would have liked it very much. I don't know. But, I mean, it was a case of well, trying to do a professional job.
You just needed to do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we did, and we tried to do as good job of it as we can, and trashed a load of scooters.
They got a push.
Yeah,
they definitely got a push. Yeah. And I asked you that because I assumed that no one involved liked it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah, they were horrible looking things, weren't they? Like little,
I don't
idiots.
know. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, again, you see, I've seen an awful lot of stuff like snakeboards or roller shuttles or all these things. These sort of, it's like skateboarding or it's like BMX, but better. No, it's not better.
Yeah.
No, it's not better.
Yeah. No worries. Let's get off that topic. Yeah, rubbish. Yeah. And then like you run RAD up until what happened? What was the end of RAD? Like what?
Yeah, that's horrible. So we talked about BMX Action bike going bust and being sold to someone else, and that launched RAD. Well, those people then, in their turn, went bust and sold it to, I think, Robert Maxwell, who then, his organisation, which was then thrown into disarray when he died, but that they sold it, I think, on to somebody else. And so that final, I think I've got the number of transitions right. So basically a long history of it going bust and being sold to someone else, the publishers not being able to make money out of it, selling it to someone else.
Well, even when it was skate, you couldn't make money out of it?
Not a huge amount, no.
Okay.
Skating wasn't that big. Not like it got bigger after RAD.
Yeah, okay.
Or not enough money that they want. I mean, in the case of the computer people, the company went bust, and that was nothing to do with the magazine. That was to do with the computer side of the business. The Maxwell transition, one of them was the disarray caused by his death. I think there was one other. They then sold it on to what they called HHL. I'm never quite sure. You can look at the front of the magazine and see the transition. But anyway.
Oh, right.
So the people who owned it are saying, basically, we're going to close it down. We're going to sell it, see if we can sell it. Do you want to buy it? So having survived so many of these transitions and being fed up with being messed around and losing money, huge amounts of money each time, by the way, the company went bust. The last time was 13,000 quid that I was personally lost. And the figures for whenever that was, I mean, that was a lot of money. Basically said, okay, we'll have a go at buying it. We take it over. That's the way of gaining control of it, is we'll own it. So we raised a load of money, and foolishly, I tried to negotiate, thinking they'll never sell it to anyone else. There's only us that want it. So we'd say, can't quite afford that. Well, we've got this. So they sold it to someone else, a windsurfing publication. So windsurfing people got hold of RAD. They thought they were buying the editorial team. I set them straight about that, because we don't want to do it for you. We don't. We were the people who were going to buy it. You were bidding against. So we're off. And so I went off. Me and the team who produced RAD, we went off, having raised the money to continue running RAD. We thought, well, we'll launch something else. So we launched FAT, which survived for 3 issues in a hailstorm of bad publicity about depicting, appearing to promote guns.
Yeah, I remember,
That article was actually very hostile to guns, but nobody read it. They just jumped to the clues and select. So that went down in flames, and that was the end of it for me. Anyway,
that was you out of publishing.
That was me out of publishing and really out of skateboarding as well. I had survived all these other things. Thinking 70s crash right through multiple transitions of the magazine. I'd survived all of that and kept going and kept going and kept going because I wanted to publish a skateboard magazine, basically. But with the FAT collapse, no, that was so painful and traumatic that was the end of me. I just shut down emotionally, mentally, financially. It took me 10 years to pay off the personal debts on that one.
Damn.
So that was the end of it. That's what actually stopped me. And it's only now that I look back on it and think, you should have picked yourself up again, perhaps. I mean, the answer is no, I couldn't. I was in a real state. But, you know, I don't know if I'd have gone to work for those other people. I don't think so. I mean, and then the great point about this is, of course, by taking RAD out, which effectively we did because they made such a complete mess of it, that was opening up the opportunities for things like Sidewalk and all these other magazines that have come since. So, I've never seen it that way, but I've been told that, had it pointed out to me. And it's in that but there's a book about some aspects of the magazine, the photography coming out, and somebody actually makes that point that by basically falling under a bus, I
allowed someone else to drive.
Some great opportunities. Yeah, horrible business.
So, where did you go from Fat? What was the next step? Like, what did you do from that?
Right, that gets quite interesting, exciting. For me, is I was licking my wounds for a bit. I was signing on, and then Gavin Hills said, key point here is that we published an email address in BMX Action Bike in 1985. I've always been very into the whole digital stuff. So, in fact, for example, we've been publishing stuff about Usenet, which is a sort of news system distributed across the internet. And then the Fat demise coincided with the invention of HTML and the web. And I think I was getting into that. I was really interested in it, in my sort of licking my wounds sort of way. And Gavin took me around and introduced me to these two guys in the Truman Brewery who were doing it sort of interactive media for the music industry. And we all got together and they created this early sort of web company, web consultancy design business called State 51, which sort of pioneered an awful lot of interesting, very, very cool stuff for record labels in particular. They're still going.
All right.
Yeah. So that was where I embarked upon a career in digital and web stuff.
Okay. Is that what you do now?
No, I've just retired, but yes, it was. I mean, there's a bit there's a chunk of 8 years when I then stopped doing that and went to work for New Deal, the skate distribution company.
Okay, the skate distribution. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And then that went bust. You got a theme here? and I stopped and went back to the digital stuff, doing sort of consultancy about analytics. And then the coolest organisation appeared that was doing absolutely brilliant stuff online and doing it really well and better than anyone else. And it happened to be the government. So I became a civil servant working on gov.uk. And that was brilliant because they were so committed, are still so committed to doing it right and making it meet users' needs, which is what we were doing with RAD. Is we were producing this thing that was, as you say, was full of actually, you felt you could be in RAD, and you could.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was meeting a whole load of user needs for rad, exciting pictures, but also a sense of inclusion and being part of the world. We were providing that. But as far as I'm concerned, this is all one thing. This is all just to do with getting away from the top-down type of publishing model, or be it in print or online, of we know best, this is what you're going to have, and doing it the other way and making it much, much more interactive and just responding to what the readers or users of the material want it to be.
Being in the scene instead of above it.
Yeah, totally.
Which is how it come out. Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's a key point I think about RAD. I hope is that what came out of it was this feeling that you were part of the world, you were part of the scene. It did not.
Yeah, it was reachable, wasn't it? Yeah.
You could be in it.
It was like you could touch it. Yeah.
You could be
totally.
in it.
That's
you
what
are part of this world. And we were very. I mean, that's a very conscious decision that, I don't often talk about the other publications at the time, but say the revived version of Skateboard magazine, I think was still doing a very top-down approach, as in, we're cool and we're telling you what's cool.
Yeah.
Whereas
what's what? Yeah.
And sort of you're not part of it in quite the same way. I think it's a bit hard to put my finger on it, so maybe
conventional media. Yeah, it's conventional media, isn't it?
Yeah,
we know more than you. Listen.
Yeah, well, we were very much. Tell us. I mean, one of the things I liked, and everybody else working on the magazine thought I was mad, was the thing called The Wall, all those free unclassified ads. Things, because that was brilliant, because all those were written by the readers. So people quite often would find the idea that you could just write something for a magazine and it would bite your hand off. That was a big leap for most people. It was actually true.
Yeah.
He published an awful lot of stuff and desperate to get stuff. But also, even writing a letter to a magazine can be somewhat daunting, whereas fitting in a form and just using it to send some crazy cryptic message to your mates, or
random message,
the shout out to type stuff, was very doable. So people did it, and we printed as many of them as we could get our hands on. And we loved it. I loved it, but I think everyone else thought I was mad.
I mean, the graphic was good on that as well. Still, so that did work out well. What's going on with a book?
Oh, well,
the Rad book. I wanted you to give that a shout out, as it's kind of like coming up. So
at the time we're recording this, it's not quite out. It's out on July.
Not out, but it's
July the 2nd or the 8th. I forget. July 8th.
We're not going to be out for a month. Well, we won't be out till the 20th of. Oh no, the 20th of this month. This is an early. You're quite quick actually. We usually 2 months in advance.
But bear in mind, you're a digital thing, so you've got to say we're doing this. I'd always put the year on, so I'm saying it's going to come out future tense on 2nd or 8th of July 2024. And what it is, it's not a book about the magazine per se. It's there's been an huge project going for about 20 years to try and do a book about the photography in the magazine.
Okay.
This thing isn't even quite that. This is a sort of a specific take on the photography. But it's basically called something like, the key is the sort of subtitle, which is Skateboarding Through a British Lens. It's very much about the UK skate scene as seen and the impact of photography on it. So it's mostly, the central section is about the Rad magazine era. There's a bit about the before, there's a bit about after. It features many of the photographers who are involved in it, but not all. It's not comprehensive. Not everybody's in there. Some are not in there because there just wasn't space. Some are not in there because they actually didn't want to be. They said, no, I don't want to be. But yeah, I mean, it's quite chunky. It's amazing.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit odd, sort of banging the drum for it, because I didn't write it. It's written by a guy, Dan Adams, one of the designers, and the guy who runs Read and Destroy Archive, and I'm a brilliant bloke.
But your pictures, it's going to be a lot of your photos in there, right?
I dominate it, inevitably, because I would have thought so much. Yeah, so there's an awful lot of my stuff in it. It's been amazing, actually. The thing I find interesting, of course, and hugely flattering, is being able to find out or read for the first time what people thought of it. There's quite a lot of interviews with people who are talking about the impact it made, which, of course, at the time, because we didn't have interactive media, you didn't really know.
You didn't know, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You turn up at events and people would be saying this or saying that, and you get some sort of vague impression about that it was going down okay. But the vast majority of the thousands of people who are reading it, you never heard from them, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, okay.
So it's very gratifying to find that some of the things we were trying to do, people actually did it and sort of get a sense of and appreciate. But
it's a really lasting impression.
Yeah, it's a really good book. I mean, it's got an awful lot of photographs by me and some other people, and sort of really interesting things, interviews and discussions about it.
Commentary from famous guys, I would assume. Yeah.
Yes, but not necessarily. No. It continues the rad tradition. There are people who are sort of famous, sort of people for appearing in the magazine, but there are people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
very interesting people who were just reading the magazine at the time and saying it had an impact on me, and I went on to do this or that because of it.
Cool.
It's really nice to read. It's really heartening to read it. It's embarrassing sometimes.
Nice. But why? Why is it embarrassing?
Oh, come on. Some of it seems. It wasn't that good.
What, the mag was it? No, wait, man.
Some of it was.
Downplaying it big time.
But remember, you were always trying to produce a magazine, and you're always that's the best possible. And you look at it and think you can see all the things that went wrong with it. All the stuff,
of course, but that's the same. That's the same with everything, though, right?
Yeah.
To have something that's had that impression on so many people, and I think it's really something. Yeah, that's like everyone my age who still rides or skates, or even 45 to 60 or whatever. They're all got such huge memories from that mag, and it shaped a lot of people's lives. I'll definitely that's something to be proud of for sure, man.
Oh, and I am
100%.
Yeah. I'm not downplaying.
That's
yet.
Something. Even though you got burnt many times,
I got well and truly burnt.
Most people haven't done that with their lives,
No, but there is this thing. This year, did it when I was in my 30s and 40s. Funnily enough, at one of those Mons jams, this young kid had produced a zine, and the headline, front page of the zine was "TLB is old." So it said he seemed completely shocked that this person who was doing this cool magazine could be as old as I was then. I would have been in my 30s, but never mind.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I thought you was gonna. That wasn't bullshit zine, was it?
No. That was James Watmuth, who did bullshit. I think
that was infamous. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He
did stuff for the mag. Yeah.
He's another. Yeah, he did stuff for the mag. He's another really, really, really good, bright person. Yeah, good stuff that he did. Okay. And again, I suspect probably found it a bit tedious the way we were still trying to stay on the right side of distributors and such like. Interestingly,
because he did the artwork for the cartoon or something, did he?
He did wrote the thing, created the cartoon. Okay. Yeah, at one point. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I love the phrase "so hardcore it hurts." So hardcore it hurts. And I just thought that was good about that. Yeah, but I mean, but the magazine was surprisingly straight. People thought it was full of bad language. We never swore.
Only in comparison to real life, compared to the other mags, it wasn't. It was vibrant and it was full of.
But we never actually used swear words and so on.
Yeah, I think at the end, only on the fence, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, that was BMX Action bike anyway. But no. Yeah. No, we referred to things being totally mucked out and so on. So I mean, it felt like it's full of all this stuff, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't even realise. Yeah,
it's quite an interesting balancing act. Yeah. I think towards the end we did allow people to swear in the wall because it was them, not us.
Okay.
I think I did put some stuff in there, but broadly speaking, no. We pulled off this sort of illusion of that language without actually using it.
Yeah, you can still have that. You can still create a vibe without using like swear words. I think.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
someone else. One of my friends wanted to ask: were you anything to do with 411?
Ah, well, that's interesting because Steve Douglas, who created 411 with Josh Freeberg, Steve always tells the tale that I gave him the idea in the first place in a pub.
Okay, that's what he's probably referring to.
Yeah. This is all over the place on record at London Calling and so on. Steve, they actually had an event. Okay. They had an event in the pub in Covent Garden where this happened, which, literally the evening event was everybody's meeting up in this pub where I gave Steve the original idea to doing the video magazine. I mean,
you can't remember, or you didn't do it?
No, I almost certainly did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the original idea or what. He says, yeah, but yes, I was totally into the idea of, because of my interest in digital stuff and interactive media and so on. I wanted the idea of there being a sort of magazine format video where I wanted to have a navigation system so you could fast forward or, play fast and spot the different chapter headings and jump to bits using VHS rather than, obviously when DVD and things came in, you could do that. Now chapter headings and so on. But I wanted to do something a bit like that with a video, which I don't think ever really made it into it. But I can remember having discussions about that with him. The thought that I actually contributed the original seed idea. Well, he's vehement about this, so it must be true. And it's another example of me having sort of vaguely forgotten something or got it all mangled up. It was a long time ago. It's a long time ago.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Are you coming down for the book launch?
I presume so. Well, I'm going to come down to London Calling. There's going to be London Calling 2, which covers the 80s. The first one
was that was the book launch. Is that not the...
Well, I think it's all being rolled together. I think...
That's what I thought, yeah.
London Calling 2 is about the 80s rather than the 70s, so that's the period in which the book was most active. So, yes, I'll be down for that. Yeah. I'm not sure what the running order is for that. I'm hoping it will be similar to the one before. So very much looking forward to that and just seeing so many people.
Yeah. Well, is that the 11th of July, maybe? Or
something like that. Something like. Okay. Shall I go and get my calendar up?
Yeah, just in case. Yeah, I think it is. I think I looked last week.
Let's see if I can find it. Not long. Help. They've all been busily involved in it's the 11th to the 14th.
All right, brilliant.
It'll be interesting to see what they managed to pull off for that one, because up to this point, there's the people involved, like Dan did the exhibition. They've all been over in California doing a sort of reprise of it for at the Skateboarding Hall of Fame Museum.
Hall of Fame, I saw it, yeah.
So I don't know if they're back yet, but they haven't got that much time to pull together all the stuff for this. But 11th to 14th of July.
I can't think of what else it's a lot of the stuff I think we've skirted round and you couldn't remember some of it.
Yeah.
Let me just have a flick through. So, have you got any memories of shooting Jess and Nick at Jess's ramping around Highgate and Muswell Hill area?
I can remember the sessions there. I must admit.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it more in terms of the track, the track in the woods aspect.
You did track in the woods?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was you. I thought you said it wasn't. Oh, okay.
No, definitely was. Richard Grant was responsible for it because where did he live? Crouch End or Muswell Hill, somewhere around there. And so it was relatively local, and so he spotted it and knew it was there. So I can remember going and shooting some pictures there for that feature.
Also, that feature was, again, local kids doing DIY in it, you know?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Like
which is right up my street. That's, really, really brilliant, yeah. Yeah, so that's just the type of thing I like. Yeah.
And those guys became like big names, really. Like,
well, yeah, I mean,
Jess did.
Jess is really, really good.
Yeah,
and Nick too. And yeah, I mean, there's also the one that we did at Nick's house. The pictures with him on a quarter pipe in his back garden. So that had studio flash and stuff again. That's why those pictures look so nice. It's because I had the studio flash stuff going on, because we just ran an extension lead out from his house.
All right, yeah, and that was him, Eric, Darren Robinson, and Jess, right? That was.
I can't really remember who was there, but yeah, interesting. Was Nick at the Track in the Woods shoot or not? I don't know.
No, but he was a local there. Yeah. He wasn't in the mag, but.
Okay, so the first person the time I can really remember him was going to his house and doing that one. That stood out in my memory. He might have been at the Track in the Woods shoot, but I don't know. I mean, it's all hazy. I can remember going there.
Yeah, totally. That was a great feature.
Yeah, it was a great place.
Yeah, for a young kid like me, like when I was really young when that came out, and I just remember seeing that, like, whoa, people can make their own stuff. I'd never had the realisation, other than a plank of wood and a crate, I'd never had that realisation, like, oh, you can actually like do your own stuff. Yeah. And then also like Jess's half pipe sessions as well.
Oh, Jess was right.
That's it.
Yeah, he was.
And Craig was riding there, and Damon, and like that just seemed like a really good movement that those guys had going on early.
Yes.
Like they seemed to step away from the conventional spotlight and just to have their own thing going on, which I really enjoyed. Yeah,
I think so. I think it got this impression. It gave, from a world in which there was a lot of the emphasis was on competitions and events and races and things like that. This realization that you could just build your own track, and as lots of people did, but that it was worthy of going in a magazine as well. But you don't have to be, riding in some big event. But actually, what you're doing in the woods at the end of your road, like I did, is just as rad.
Is worthy of seeing. Yeah. It even spreads the vibe more. Because of that, because it's not attainable. So, yeah, that is nice. But did you shoot many pictures of the half pipe that you had in the backyard?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because his house was only like down the street from that track, right? Like literally, like yeah,
because his dad used to wander along as well. So.
Oh, okay.
I mean, literally, it's just down the road.
Did you ever shoot in the station where they used to ride? I used to ride Highgate Station. Yes. Nick was saying.
Yes, but I knew about that. I'm trying to think. I have no real recollection of it. I'm sorry. I mean, I knew. All right. I knew about it. I'm trying to think. What did I do? I don't know.
That's a seminal spot as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I wouldn't swear to that.
Okay, I'd definitely be interested in seeing some photos of that if they were about.
Yeah. Well, that's why we need to get the BMX archive sorted out.
I'll tell you what I wanted to ask you about Whole Shot.
Yeah.
What did you make of those events?
I thought it was really interesting that Andy had the balls to do it. I mean, again, people who can patronise Mom Barber and go ahead and patronise Andy, because another person in the teams, as I think he would have been at that point, just staging these amazing events. And
it would have been, yeah.
And again, he had his finger on the pulse in the sense that, he knew what he was doing. He was going to get American skaters in it for that. But I think that was the last one he did. I don't know.
That was the last one, yeah. That kind of evolved as it went on. So
yeah, but I mean,
it started as BMX, didn't it?
Totally,
and then it kind of like.
But you see, again, he did it from a rider's perspective. I mean, the ramp events, the quarter pipe events, or whatever it was, those aspects of it were not sort of constrained into some straitjacket, as far as I can remember. They felt, those events felt really exciting, I think.
Yeah, they were looser, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Full of admiration for him for doing that. Blimey.
Yeah, especially that last one where it had the skate demo was really something, wasn't it? But that was, without the mag, they wouldn't have had the skate demo, without doubt.
I don't know. Do you think?
I mean, I know that he skated a bit, but I think that was a reflection of what was going on in the magazine as to how that came about, looking back at it.
Well, I think the magazine was reflecting what was going on in the real world.
What was going on in real life, of course, yeah. But from him putting on that event, you've got to see what's his window for seeing that stuff. I suppose, Chingford was near. Yeah, Chingford was near those guys and stuff. So,
Neil was clued in as well. I mean, Neil,
Neil was at Mons and stuff, yeah.
Well,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
What about Chingford?
I like Chingford. Interesting. You sent me some scans of the one with Dean Rush.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the jam.
Yeah, I was thinking. I don't actually remember that happening at all. I would have been horrified, but I've blanked it out clearly. I liked some of the things. I did several things in sessions at Chingford. I liked that place. Really good. I just liked it. It felt good to me.
Yeah.
Place.
Yeah, Paul Wright was the guy there. Yeah, that was where I was local, Chingford.
Paul Wright struck me as such a nice bloke.
He had it going on. He was like Mons, like that sort of. He created that scene.
Yeah,
and he made all of that stuff. Without take that person out, that's not there.
Yeah, I think people like that have been so important.
Great. Yeah,
so important over the years. Yeah,
yeah, high impact.
I hope they'd like to see more credit paid to all of those aspects. To those people somehow. Salute them. We'd do a book on them.
Yeah.
On these sort of linchpin figures who create whole entire scenes.
Yeah. I wonder how many of those there are. I obviously could think of 4 off the top of my head, but I wonder if that might get hard to think of those people as you start going on.
Probably. And I
suppose it depends what eras you take. Yeah.
Yeah.
What eras, when you start opening up the eras, then there'd be way, way more. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm good with all that we've got. If you're good, Tim, I'm good.
Okay.
All right. And seriously, thanks very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's quite an interesting trip down memory lane for me as well, because as I keep saying, I don't remember too much of it. So, the prompts from you are really useful.
No worries.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for listening. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.